For thousands of years, humanity moved at the speed of muscle. Horse, ox, camel, wind. The idea that a carriage could move without an animal once sounded like fantasy. But in the late 18th century, a dangerous idea began to take shape. What if fire could replace the horse? In 1769, French military engineer Nicolas-Joseph Cugnot built something extraordinary. A three-wheeled steam-powered artillery tractor. It moved at 2 miles per hour. It required constant water refills. And it famously crashed into a wall. But it worked. For the first time, a vehicle carried itself. Steam power would dominate locomotives and ships. But steam cars were heavy, dangerous, and slow to start. The world needed something smaller. Something faster. In the mid-1800s, engineers began experimenting with internal combustion engines. Instead of boiling water, fuel would explode inside a chamber. Controlled explosions. Harnessed power. In 1876, German engineer Nikolaus Otto developed the four-stroke engine still used today. Intake, compression, combustion, exhaust. The modern engine cycle was born. In 1885, a quiet engineer in Mannheim, Germany finished building a strange three-wheeled machine. His name was Karl Benz. His invention, the Benz patent motor wagon. It had a gasoline engine, wire wheels, a top speed of 10 miles per hour. In 1886, he patented it. Many historians consider this the birth of the modern car. But few believed in it. Except one person. His wife. In 1888, without telling her husband, Bertha Benz took the motor wagon on a 66-mile journey. It was the first long-distance automobile trip in history. She invented brake lining during the trip. Created the first fuel stop at a pharmacy. Proved the car was practical. Sales began to grow. The automobile was no longer a toy. It was transportation. At the same time, another German engineer was working on a lighter, faster engine. Gottlieb Daimler. Unlike Benz, Daimler focused on high-speed engines. By 1889, he created a four-wheeled automobile. Soon, Daimler and Benz would become rivals. And eventually merge. Their company would become Mercedes-Benz. By the 1890s, France, Germany, and America were racing to dominate this new invention. In the United States, inventors like the Duryea brothers built America's first gasoline car. Automobile clubs formed. Races were organized. Wealthy elites bought experimental vehicles. But cars were expensive, unreliable, complicated to operate. They were luxury curiosities. That would soon change. As the 19th century ended, the automobile was no longer an experiment. It was a revolution waiting to explode. Within 2 decades, cars would reshape cities, transform labor, create suburbs, define freedom. And one man would make the car affordable for the masses. His name was Henry Ford. At the dawn of the 20th century, the automobile was still a rich man's toy. Hand-built, expensive, unreliable. In 1900, there were fewer than 10,000 cars in the entire United States. By 1920, there would be over 8 million. One man would make that possible. His name was Henry Ford. Born in 1863 on a Michigan farm, Henry Ford hated farm work. He loved machines. At age 16, he left home to work as a machinist in Detroit. He believed something radical. I will build a motor car for the great multitude. At the time, cars were assembled like fine watches by skilled craftsmen, one at a time. Ford wanted something different. He wanted speed. He wanted scale. He wanted simplicity. In 1896, Ford built his first vehicle, the quadricycle. It worked. But when he founded the Detroit Automobile Company in 1899, the cars were too expensive, poorly built, slow to produce. The company failed. So did his second attempt. Most investors thought Ford was reckless. But Ford wasn't trying to build a better luxury car. He was trying to build a car anyone could afford. In 1908, Ford introduced the Model T. It wasn't flashy. It wasn't luxurious. But it was durable, simple, easy to repair, affordable. It used vanadium steel, lighter and stronger than competitors' materials. It had high ground clearance for rough rural roads. It could be fixed with basic tools. Initial price was $825. Still expensive but lower than most rivals. And Ford had a plan to bring that price down. In 1913, at Ford's Highland Park plant, a revolutionary system began operating. The moving assembly line. Instead of workers building an entire car, the car moved. Each worker performed one task. Over and over. Before the assembly line, a Model T took 12 hours to assemble. After 90 minutes, production skyrocketed. Costs plummeted. Efficiency became king. The modern industrial world had begun. In 1914, Ford shocked the world again. He announced workers would earn $5 per day. More than double the average wage. Industrialists were outraged. But Ford understood something revolutionary. If workers earned more, they could afford the cars they built. It was capitalism fueling itself. Within a few years, Ford workers became customers. The middle class expanded. Consumer culture exploded. Year by year, the price of the Model T dropped. 1908, $825. 1916, $360. 1925, $260. For the first time in history, ordinary families could own personal transportation. Farmers traveled to town in minutes instead of hours. Doctors reached patients faster. Families explored beyond their communities. Mobility became freedom. The impact was seismic. Road construction expanded rapidly. Gas stations appeared nationwide. Motels were born. Drive-in restaurants emerged. Suburbs began forming outside cities. Entire industries sprang up. Tire manufacturers. Oil companies. Highway engineers. Insurance firms. The automobile didn't just change transportation. It reshaped civilization. But Ford had a weakness. He believed in one car. One design. One color. Any customer can have a car painted any color that he wants so long as it is black. Black paint dried fastest, improving production speed. But customers began demanding style, choice, variety. And another company was watching closely. Enter Alfred P. Sloan, head of General Motors. Sloan introduced a radical new idea. Planned obsolescence. Instead of one car for everyone. Different cars for different incomes. Chevrolet for entry-level buyers. Pontiac for the middle class. Cadillac for the wealthy. And most importantly, annual model changes. Style became strategy. By the late 1920s, Ford's dominance began to fade. After producing over 15 million Model Ts, production stopped in 1927. It remains one of the most influential machines ever built. The car was no longer a luxury. It was an expectation. Henry Ford had achieved his dream. He built a car for the multitude. But he had also unleashed something much bigger. Mass production. Mass consumption. Mass society. By 1920, the automobile had transformed from curiosity to necessity. Factories became temples of efficiency. Cities stretched outward. The open road became a symbol of freedom. But as the 1920s roared ahead, cars would become more than machines. They would become art, status, speed, and style. In the next chapter, luxury collides with performance, and the automobile becomes a cultural icon. Please like, share, and subscribe. Thank you.